At the helicopter testing facility of a major aviation corporation, a young CEO stood beside a brand new prototype aircraft. Her designer heels clicked against the concrete as she inspected the machine worth $20 million. Beside her, a man in a janitor's uniform wiped down the cockpit windows with steady hands. She turned to him with a half smile, her voice dripping with mockery. "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you." Laughter erupted from the employees gathered around. Phones came out to record the moment. The janitor just smiled quietly, his eyes unchanging. 10 minutes later, the engine roared to life. The helicopter lifted off, circling like a hunting eagle. When it landed, the entire facility fell silent. Jack Turner was 40 years old, a single father, and a man who once commanded the skies. He used to be a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, an instructor in the Tactical Flight Division. He trained some of the best pilots in the country. But that was before the accident, before the injury that ended his military career, before he traded his flight suit for a janitor's uniform. Now he worked at Aerosky Corporation, mopping floors and cleaning windows. Nobody knew his past. Nobody asked. To them, he was just the quiet maintenance man who showed up early and left late. His daughter Ella was 9 years old. She had her mother's smile, though her mother had been gone for 3 years now. Cancer took her quickly. Too quickly. Ella was Jack's entire world. Every morning she would hug him before school and say the same thing. "Daddy, you don't need medals to be a pilot. You'll always be my hero." Jack kept his old pilot ID card in his wallet. The edges were worn, the lamination peeling. He looked at it sometimes, remembering a different version of himself, a version that felt confident, a version that mattered. At Aerosky, preparations were underway for something big. The company was about to unveil the Valkyrie V9, a cutting-edge helicopter with an advanced autopilot system. It was supposed to revolutionize the industry. But there was a problem. Nobody wanted to test fly it. The engineers were brilliant with computers and calculations. But flying, actually sitting in that cockpit and trusting their own work, that was different. Fear had a way of making even the smartest people hesitate. Aurora Vallon was 30 years old and already running the entire corporation. She inherited Aerosky from her father 2 years ago. Beautiful, intelligent, ruthless. She had an MBA from an Ivy League school and zero patience for weakness. To her, employees were resources, numbers on a spreadsheet, tools to be used. She especially looked down on the cleaning staff. They were invisible to her, background noise in her empire. The Valkyrie V9 sat in the testing hangar like a sleeping predator. Sleek black metal, curved glass, technology that most people couldn't even comprehend. Aurora stood beside it in her tailored business suit, arms crossed, staring at her team of engineers. They shuffled nervously, avoided eye contact. Jack was nearby, emptying trash cans. He moved quietly, efficiently. Years of military discipline made him notice everything. He saw the fear in their eyes. He understood it. Flying something new always carried risk, but he also saw something else. The helicopter was beautiful, perfectly balanced. The rotor system looked flawless. Whoever designed this knew what they were doing. Aurora's voice cut through the silence, sharp and cold. "We launch in 1 week. Someone needs to test this aircraft, not the simulator. The real thing." Nobody volunteered. She looked around the room with disgust. "I'm surrounded by cowards." Jack kept working, but he smiled slightly. He had heard officers talk like that before. Fear and anger dressed up as leadership. It never worked. Ella's words echoed in his mind. You don't need medals to be a pilot. Maybe not, but he knew what he was. And watching that beautiful machine sit unused felt wrong, like seeing a caged eagle. He finished his work and headed toward the exit. Tomorrow was another day, another shift of being invisible. He had no idea that everything was about to change. The next morning, tension filled the hangar. Aurora had called an emergency meeting. Her heels echoed against the concrete floor as she paced in front of the Valkyrie V9. 20 engineers stood in a semicircle, looking miserable. "Let me understand this correctly," Aurora said, her voice dangerously quiet. "We have spent 3 years and $40 million developing this aircraft. We have media coverage scheduled. We have potential buyers flying in from 6 countries. And not one of you has the courage to test it? An older engineer named Marcus spoke up nervously. Miss Valen, with respect, the autopilot system is completely new. If something goes wrong at altitude, the manual override might not respond fast enough. We need a professional test pilot, someone with military experience who... We don't have time to hire an outside pilot, Aurora snapped. You're all engineers, not pilots. I understand that. But somebody in this company must have basic flight training. Silence. Jack was working near the rear of the hangar, cleaning the windows of the observation room. He had his back turned, but he heard every word. He had seen this situation before. Pride versus reality. It rarely ended well. Without thinking, he spoke. His voice was calm, almost casual. Maybe you need someone who's both. Everyone turned. Aurora's eyes landed on him like a spotlight. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to something close to amusement. Excuse me? Jack set down his cleaning supplies and walked closer. He kept his movements slow, non-threatening. Old habit from diffusing tense situations in the military. You said you need someone who's an engineer and a pilot. Maybe you're looking in the wrong places. One of the younger engineers laughed out loud. Others joined in. The sound rippled through the group like a wave. Oh my God, someone whispered. The janitor thinks he can fly. Aurora tilted her head, studying Jack like he was a strange insect. A smile played at the corner of her mouth. Not a kind smile, the smile of someone about to enjoy themselves. You, she said, you think you can fly a $20 million aircraft? I didn't say that, Jack replied evenly. You said you needed someone. I'm just pointing out you might be making assumptions. The room erupted in laughter now. Someone pulled out their phone, started recording. This was going to be the break room joke for months. Aurora stepped closer to Jack. She was tall in her heels, almost at eye level with him. Her perfume was expensive. Her confidence